Hi. Hello.
Hey, ladies,
Hi, Jim.
how's everybody doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm a little tired on the reels today, but I'm doing good. I'm doing pretty good.
Good evening.
What's
Good
going
evening.
on, Mr. David?
Hello.
What's up, brother? All right, I'm getting everybody in here. So you guys met with Rudy last night. How was that?
It was
Oh,
good.
good.
It was good.
Good.
Cool,
Good.
cool.
Yeah, Rudy's my boy, so I'm in good hands with Rudy. What's up, John? How you doing, brother?
Hello. Good afternoon or evening.
Good evening. Look, man, you sound so cool. I got to get that. I got to get your accent. Where are you from? Because I don't know if I got your backstory.
Well, I spent a good deal of my past 15 years overseas, internationally, over in Asia. So I picked up a few, I guess, dialects from the British and the South Africans and the Aussies. So I probably have
Okay.
somewhat of an eclectic voice.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, I'm just from, I'm just from the block up the street. So, that's much more eclectic than me, no doubt about it, man. Yeah, I thought it was South African. I had a chance, gosh, about 15 years ago now. Maybe not that quite that long, but in any case, to go to South Africa and speak at an economic conference. And so it was my first time on the continent, getting that little mother continent dirt under my toes, and so it was a great experience, though. So I highly encourage it. All right, so let's take a couple minutes before we get started. I'm always interested where people have traveled to, so I'm gonna go from top to bottom and just see like your favorite, the furthest away you've gone, and your favorite place to go. Fiona, you're in the top left Brady spot in this.
I'm always in the top.
Matrix.
Okay, the furthest I haven't really been to many places, so probably DR.
Okay.
I've been to DR. My favorite, I really like Jamaica. I really
Okay.
enjoyed going to traveling different places in Jamaica. That's my favorite.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Jamaica. DR though, I mean, they're dropping like flies. I'm gonna have to pass on that right now.
Yes, sir.
Camille, what about you?
Well, my family is Jamaican and we have a house there, and I was actually there during the pandemic. So I do.
Everybody to Camille's house over to her parents' crib.
I actually do enjoy Jamaica, but I grew up between Miami and Jamaica. So living in Miami, you literally go to all the Caribbean islands. Like, what are you doing this weekend? Let's go to the
Yeah,
Bahamas. You go to DR, stuff like that. So I
yeah.
love the Caribbean. My favorite place I would have to say is Ibiza. With outside of London, we've gone to Ibiza. That's look at John, you know.
Very nice.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes.
trying to find out. All right, so that's what's up. Arlene, you're next up.
Well, I like to say that myself and my team members are going to get along real good because I was born in Jamaica. I came here when I was in elementary school. I had the opportunity to travel to a business travel to Hawaii. I was only there for a few days, but I must say my favorite place is Jamaica.
Gotcha. Okay. David, you in the center slot here.
Well, my father was in the army, so he retired as a colonel. So I went and did a lot of traveling. I've gone to the DR, Aruba, Barbados, Korea. I was born in Frankfurt, Germany. Um, where else have I been? I've been to Colombia. I've been to Brazil, and I think that's Oh, I've been to Japan, specifically Okinawa, and that's it.
What was your favorite?
Oh, my favorite was Aruba and Barbados. The water is so nice and clear.
Yeah, you like that Caribbean. You know, all these black people like all of that chocolate warm climate. I see y'all. All right, Tanya. What about you? Oh, the question. Did you hear me? Were you here when I asked the question? Okay.
Try to unmute and I get a hand.
Got you. Got you.
I hadn't really traveled overseas. I've tried to travel all the 50 states. So the most one I like to travel, we went to Michigan, and I like the scenic route going that way. The mountains and things, I really enjoyed that.
Okay.
I like
guess
the
that's
mountains.
Appalachians, huh?
Huh?
The Appalachian Mountains, I guess, is which
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
Good stuff. John, you started this all off, man. Give us a little more background on all the great places you've been.
Well, I've pretty much like my father was in the military as well, but I didn't get to really travel with him. But you know, as an adolescent to my adulthood, I've gone to like 21 different countries and pretty much all the continents except for South America and Antarctica. So I guess my favorite place, it's really tough. It's between Asia and Europe, so I'd say France.
France.
One of my favorite places. Yeah.
All right. What about why France? Because you've been in a lot of places, so we got to have a little bit more insight because you got the knowledge here.
Yeah, I just love the language. I love the culture. Not the food, not so much. I'm more of an Italian food guy, but the beauty of the language, I think that's what really draws me. The sophistication of the way they say things. I think it's just a like everybody says it's a romantic language, and it is. You know, so that's kind of why I fall in love with it. Yeah.
Got you. All right, Mr. Freeman, man, Dwayne, you up next. We're just talking about places you traveled, farthest you've been away from your home spot, and your favorite place.
Let's see. So, I mean, the furthest place that I've gone to when I was young, you know, back when I was like 7, 8 years old, Army brat, lived overseas in Germany, Schweinfurt, Frankfurt, Switzerland, Rome. Just I can remember just a little bit about it. But what stands out at that time was Oktoberfest. So big mugs in front of me, mugs bigger than my whole head, and I wasn't drinking. I wasn't drinking, but it was like hot cocoa and the Steiners, what they call them.
Yeah.
Then in my adult age, furthest I've gone, Vancouver, Canada. Whistler, one trip up there, and it was a great time up there, real great time. Snow was as white as cotton. I mean,
yeah.
And
I hear the keywords beautiful. I hear it's beautiful in Vancouver.
Oh man, it is lovely up there. And then across the water, Hawaii, Maui.
Yeah.
So, but those are the standouts. Nothing weird, just great, just scenery and just a great time when I was there. So that's all.
Did you see the black sand beaches when you were out in Maui, like the black sand and the black?
No, not it was all white sands, all white.
Yeah, yeah. Got to see the black sand beaches when you go out to Hawaii.
Next time, definitely next time for sure.
Yeah. Brandon, I skipped over you because you stepped away for a second, but I don't know if you heard the question, but maybe you get what we're talking about.
Yeah, I got you. I don't know, I've been quite a few places. Mexico, Hawaii, Canada. I passed through Ireland and Germany, spent a lot of time in Iraq and Kuwait, and all over the country as well. I've missed a lot of the interior. I've done a lot of the exterior of the country, with the exception of like Florida and Louisiana, all those areas down there. I haven't really done the South. Favorite spot, honestly, is Mexico. It's up on my top. I spent a couple of weeks building an orphanage down in Mexico. I did that a couple times over. And I absolutely love the small town Mexico. And then second on my list, if Iraq ever cleans up, I want to go back to northern Iraq because it was just beyond gorgeous up there.
Wow.
There's these rolling hills and these deep canyons and really old history. I mean, I stood on, they said it was the foundation of where Abraham was born from the Bible. I stood on his house and I went inside these tombs and temples, and it was just really cool.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that sounds amazing, especially when you have something with that much history, right? Like, when you're talking,
Yeah.
places with 300 years or something compared to like 3,000
Hmm.
years. Um, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. That
Mike,
was that was.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Brandon. Did you finish? Okay, Mike, you're up.
I'm up. I haven't done as much international traveling as I would like because being a former college basketball coach in the summertime, we were always recruiting. So, so I can tell you, I've been to every state in America that has good basketball players. I can tell you that. But but I have been to like the Cayman Islands, Toronto, Jamaica, and
Mike, you only go to where the party spots are. Like any place they having like a jazz fest or something like that. Sound like you right there.
yeah, I need to be. Yeah, that's next. I'm coming. Let me know.
All right, that's what's up, man. So I've done a bit of traveling. I'm really big on travel, and I think it was like I said, it was amazing to go to South Africa and just have that experience. So I really, really appreciate it. I wish I was there long. I was there right before they had the World Cup. So, South Africa was on great display, and I was there supported by the government. So that was pretty neat. Um, when I used to work for the consulting firm, I had a gig that I had to travel to our European headquarters, was in The Hague. So over in the Amsterdam and the Netherlands area, so I thought that was pretty neat. Um, I love going to Milan. So in terms of Italy, I thought Milan was really cool, and went up to the south of France and went to Nice and kind of saw that area of the world, which was pretty nice. Uh, but my favorite place to go, and I happen to go as part of my MBA program on our international trip, and I tell people this without a doubt, that I probably once we got to get to know each other a little better, and we're all sitting over a drink, I'll have a lot more to say about this story. But my favorite place, without a doubt, is Thailand, to have gone. So spent a week in Thailand, and we did all the things Thailand you should do. And because it's built around tourism, it's very low cost, great food, lots to see, lots of culture, and it's just like it's very, very cheap for most things.
Yeah.
And but I hear Vietnam is very beautiful as well, in Cambodia. I decided to go to China and just to kind of see it, and was really just amazed by going to Hong Kong and Shanghai with some of my classmates. So what's on my list is Spain. I also haven't been to the South America countries, so those are pretty high. Spanish speaking countries. I like to teach. You guys all know I teach. So I like to teach at a university and be abroad and speak, learn how to become fluent in Spanish. So that's why I need all you guys to take over so I can go do that. Okay. All right. So let's jump into it tonight. So I'm glad you guys got a chance to meet Rudy. Rudy is really he's really someone you guys are going to rely upon to help you get your technical training and get across the finishing line with that. And if Rudy didn't go into kind of his extensive background, he is the chair of he was the chair of the department for project management at UMGC. He's now a department head, so kind of has more departments underneath him than that. So certainly in terms of PMI, all the credentialing, understanding the content, you guys are in great hands. I mean, I'm so pleased that he had the capacity right now to take on this cohort. But Rudy and I do research together. So he's really worked with me on some of my research in terms of how do you actually execute some of the things that I've been talking with you guys about. So he also understands KP in a manner that can really guide you in terms of what we're trying to accomplish here. And so I think you guys are going to be an excellent hand all the way through your process with Rudy. So please make sure you use him. Really wise guy, a number of years at IBM. So he understands corporate America very well, and a number of years in leadership, teaching and in leadership at the university. which is what I look for in a talent advisor, someone who has both of those sides, right? Someone who has been in industry, can understand the business community, understand the drivers for KP, but also in terms of what we're trying to do in terms of developing talent, can teach and can instruct and can coach. So he's the prototype of what we're looking for there. All right. So let's kick this off. So I hear the sponsorship is still kind of working its way out. So what I decided was either way, we're going to start the technical training for those of you who are not sponsored. You guys will start with Rudy digging into the content and the project management stuff on Monday. I think that the feeling is that the sponsor students will also, sponsored by one of the agencies, will also start on that day. We think their paperwork will be in order, and so everyone will get started at the same time. We're kind of gating it. Should we hold some of you guys up to get started? Should we start everyone at the same time? We'd like to keep you together as a cohort, so it is our goal to start everyone at the same time, but we don't want it to be delayed too much. So that's just in terms of background. And I think it's good that most of you guys are kind of thinking about performing some of this function for us. Guys understand and see what happens, right? We're trying to time this. We could put some of you guys in another group, but we kind of got you guys as a group. We like to keep it that way. How we're matching and pairing things up in the back. So anyway, more to come on that. So just two things in terms of today. We're going to do just agenda for what we're going to do today. I'm going to kind of review the stuff we discussed last time. Usually my style is usually by engaging you guys about what I said to make sure that you guys have clarity around that before we move off onto kind of the next thing. And also you guys will be getting some assignments, right? So we're giving you a lot of information, a lot of content to digest. Part of it as a good educator is making sure that you guys are getting it and being able to apply it. And I think hopefully, as Rudy talked about, we're trying to design everything so that it brings you closer to your experiential learning project. Really, that's the essence of this. So, and your experiential learning will be basically having you think about it has evolved a little bit, so I'll tell you guys about it now as it comes along. But it's still going to be about you guys putting together a project plan and a business case for a territory. But we're going to do it like a showcase. So one of the things that we decided what our program would be a great way to help people, right? So independent of you guys, but everyone as a methodology, what do people want? People want to get jobs, right? So when we train them, and we say we're going to either take them on ourselves or have them go to our partners, how do we do that, right? It's not that we can just knock on the door and say, well, you know what, I got box 6 here and they're ready to go ahead and take them on. We've got to build some level of a relationship and to kind of create that interaction. So one of the things that we do is we have this thing called KP's Got Talent. And KP's Got Talent is an opportunity for us to showcase all the people that we're working with. So for you guys, the way that we're going to showcase your talent and your work is when we're going to be giving you these milestones that lead up to this project. And we're going to be asking you to give presentations on whatever it is or to do something. We'll be recording that. But particularly what we'll be doing is inviting guests from our stakeholder community to actually help with the evaluation. And we'll actually have you in your territory, we'll have you actually be able to invite some of the stakeholders that you also ultimately will be presenting to. And the goal is to get these stakeholders to be on board with your approach and your methodology, right? The goal is to get them to be in agreement that, yes, they want to do what you're suggesting. Yes, we want to have KP's program here. Yes, we want to be a partner like this. That's ultimately what your business strategy will talk about, and being able to get those partners, and ideally you get a partner with you to collaborate and be part of the presentation. Like that's a home run. To be able to get a partner to commit to say, yes, what I'm hearing I'd like to do, that's a good double. To get a partner to say, yeah, I want, I'm very interested in that. I want to hear more. That's like getting on base and hitting a single, right? So this is kind of, again, you'll certainly get a lot more information about this, but part of it you'll know is it'll give you an opportunity to showcase your communication style, ability to build networks. And so all the work we're doing right now is to kind of get you prepared for that. With that said, I want to talk a little bit today about the stakeholder model and the assignment that you guys will have. So let's do that first. So I had a couple of questions here. The assignment will cover these same questions. So I want the discussion to help everyone understand the type of things we should be talking about. And then ultimately you will be writing like a 1 to 2 page essay in terms of a talent supply chain, right? Your job is to create a sample talent supply chain, and this will be explained in the assignment. Create a sample talent supply chain in your target and area, okay, your target geography. You get to decide where your target geography is, independent right now if it's in our territory or not. Okay, choose a location that you're familiar with and how you would kind of create this kind of talent supply chain. So I thought it would be good just to go over some of that today so that people could feel more comfortable before they actually began their first assignment. That sound reasonable? All right, perfect. So let me share my screen. And I'm going to talk from the website because these pictures are here. All right, so this is one of the things I talked about in terms of a community stakeholder model. And I said that this is really, really important. Who can tell me what's the importance of like this community stakeholder model in this diagram? We use this in our presentations all the time. This is always kind of fundamental when we're working with a partner. So who can tell me about, someone tell me something about this model. Why are we highlighting this?
Is it because it shows how they all interconnect in a way, and you get your employers, your service providers, your funders?
So we're definitely trying to show in this picture that there is a connection, right? We're definitely trying to show that. What's the problem? What's the problem that the reason why we're trying to show, the reason why we're presenting it in this structure, right? Does anyone remember what the issue is? Like what's the underlying problem that this particular structure solves? Tanya.
It solves the problem where there's a disconnect within the organizations. And that disconnect could be because of lack of finances. It may be because of the different partners not working together or working separate because of things that they're looking to achieve within their own organization.
Okay, so you said several things, but the one thing that you said that hit it on the head was it's that they're not working together, right? Well, they're not working together as effectively as we think that they could. Right, that's kind of the big thing here, is that they're not working together. And when they're not working together, what does that do to the overall market, right? Does anyone remember that business term I talked about?
Fragmented market.
Yeah, exactly. What does that mean, Dwayne? What does that mean, fragmented market?
It's where there's different drivers that create the inability for companies to collaborate.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of distortion, but there's a lot of, well, what's in it for me? And it has to be more for me than you. That kind of creates a lot of the, again, distortion, and it prevents, the ability to collaborate for the common goal. So
right.
In a nutshell, it just prevents, the ability to connect.
Right. There's these structural challenges, right? They're structural. It's like just the way the system is designed today, that it, like, as an example, it brings in this competition, like the nonprofits that help people, right? Typically what we call service providers. Those other service providers are competing for the same funding, so there's a disincentive for them to collaborate. This is what we mean by a structural issue. So there's a disincentive for this to happen. Even though we know that the research says to really help people, right? You hear things like wraparound services, right? Things that have this kind of comprehensive view, they all require this integration, but this has been one of the most difficult thing for community organizations or the stakeholders to do together. So this is one of the things that we have to recognize. If you're on this team, you got to recognize that what we're doing, there's a consultative approach to our work, right? There's a consultative nature to explaining to someone that one of the reasons why we structure things and do things the way we do is because we're trying to overcome that constraint within the overall market. Right now, clearly that's not the way to talk to these guys. I'm telling to you, that's more of a business understanding. But the bottom line is that to support integration, they need this third party. So like structural issues are one of the reasons why they can't collaborate. But what's one of the other issues I mentioned besides structural?
Duplication of effort.
Duplication of effort is a consequence, because if we're not working together, then we're all, I may be doing the same thing that Dwayne's doing. Dwayne may be doing the same thing you're doing. And no one really knows because we're not asking, we're just doing our own thing. We don't work, and no one's kind of a traffic cop. So that's how we get the duplication of effort. That's a consequence of a fragmented market. And I'm asking now, what other constraints, what other elements besides what Dwayne kind of had mentioned in terms of the fragmentation, what other things constrain these organizations from working together? Why don't schools and employers work that well together?
Different objectives.
Maybe because could it be because they don't invest in learning more about each other and ways they can make it work together?
So I don't think that they do that. I think that's true, Arlene. But I think is what John said, is that they're really just kind of different animals. They got different priorities. They operate differently, right? They just operate differently. And so, schools and governments are not known to do anything very quickly, right? But whereas business has to be responsive and quick and nimble and fast. That in and of itself is, a big distinction. And then secondly, in business, particularly in the private sector, we're profit motivated. So, if you do something and it doesn't work or you fail and it costs me money, that's different than like you're in the school system, you fail and nobody cares, right? It's different like, well, I got a government job and they ain't gonna fire me even if I mess up. Whereas like in the private sector, you're not getting your job done, you got a very short window for that. These kind of elements in terms of the types of organization is what makes it a little bit, it makes it more complicated. Okay, that's why we are in the center as the integrator, so that everyone can connect with us as the intermediary and then be connected to each other. And I'll talk a little bit about how we do that connection, because that is the essence of my idea. I talked to you guys about how I came up with this idea, gave you guys my little saga through business school and how I came up with these things. And I think that, did you guys all get access to the lecture I gave at Wharton? You guys have that video? I didn't know if they got it to you guys yet. Okay, so a lot of this stuff is kind of covered in there to understand that. But this model is really important to us, right? Because without this model, you can't do this, right? You can't organize yourself to actually accomplish something, deliver something, create this kind of delivery system if you don't have actors understand their roles. And one of the things that we spend a lot of time doing is explaining, hey, this is what we want to do. And that means schools, you got to do this, or employers, you got to do that. So we have to help them understand, what does it take from all of the parties to do this? We have to manage the pipeline, right? And it starts off by managing the stakeholders, right? This is where we're building these relationships all the time. So today, I just want to, just before I go into the next topic, which is going to be about our technology, I wanted to just take a couple of minutes and ask a couple of questions. Again, just this, you guys are just learning about this, so don't, please feel free to just kind of toss out what comes to you. So in terms of this community stakeholder model, right, we've got these 5 actors. And should I review them again, or is everyone clear what the roles are? Like what I mean by employer or educator and service provider or funder. Are those things clear, or should I go over those?
The first day you may have went over those, so I would appreciate it.
Oh, okay. All right, good. I usually know when my student groups are real silent when I ask a question like that, that probably means, yeah, you better go over that for us real quick. So let me do that. Okay. Employers, right? It's just what it sounds like. Anyone who is offering to pay someone to come to work and do something is an employer. And so every organization, right? Because we're a business to business organization. So every organization we work with is hiring someone. Everyone is an employer. KP is an employer, right? Obviously. Schools are employers. Government agencies are employers. Okay, so everyone at its base, we're saying, is an employer and should think about how they hire their talent in this way. Educators and service providers. So educators are, and service providers, if you think of like a manufacturing process, and you think about like a widget going through each step in the process where it gets something new, something added to it, or something done to it, that's what the educators and service providers are. They're the people that actually do the work, that are teaching you something, or that they're the group that you are getting your skills. That's how you're developing your skills. All right. So you could be playing football and gaining skills because your football is teaching you how to be disciplined, right? It's teaching you time management. It's teaching you teamwork. So we think about educators and service providers are people who are actually providing services, right? Universities are educators now and service provider, and KP is a service provider, right? We provide lots of services. We provide training services, as an example. We provide after-school services. So KP is an employer and a service provider and an educator, right? So we're both of those. Funders and policymakers. So funders are the folks that, where the money comes from. Like, who's paying for all this stuff, right? And a lot of time, because of our philosophy, we support lots of federal programs. So the policies, right, or the legislation, or the policy makers are key stakeholders because they're funding a lot of our work, like WIOA, right? So WIOA is a funding mechanism that we use for our work. So we think about whoever's paying us, right, differently. And they could sometimes be the same thing as the customers. And I'll talk about that in a second. But funders are, think about like a foundation as an example. That's a funder. An employer could be a funder, right? And the schools in themselves, they can be funder. But really, if you're putting money in, you're a funder. You're helping us fund the project. You're helping us with the budget. Affinity groups are, you think about community stakeholders, it's the sororities and the fraternities that want to help, It's the professional groups that want to mentor. People who want to contribute, but and they come as part of a group. We usually say individuals or affinity groups, but people who want to contribute that may be in a group. And then customers, we think of customers from our perspective as the people who we're trying to help, right? The participants of our programs, where do those participants come from? That's who, because remember, we're business to business. So it's not the participants themselves, but it's where are we getting the people from? So like when we're working with K-12, the school is the customer because we're working with the kids and the kids are coming through the school. Okay, so these are the different roles. Anybody have any questions about that? And there are lots of on our websites. We're always describing these things, right? So if you go to the KP Connect website and you look for the community stakeholder model, you will find, and even here, if you go to our digital network group site and you click read more, you will get more information about what the partners are and what their roles are, definitions. Okay, so we're always defining this because this is fundamental to how we organize ourselves and our work. And it's just about on all of our websites, this model here. Okay. Any questions about that before I start asking more questions? All right, perfect. So I guess I'm gonna do some calling out today. Let me pause this here. Mike, so which stakeholder, it's like last in, first up. which stakeholder do you think is the most important in terms of our work?
Which stakeholder?
I'll share it again. Which stakeholder group do you think is the most important in terms of our work?
Customer.
The customer. Why you say that?
Because none of it works without the customer.
Okay. Because
Like
you got to have somebody.
You got to have somebody to help.
Got you. I mean, that's very logical. All right. Anyone else? Let me go to. Let me stick with the guys for this part of it. David, what sayeth you about the most important customer group? I mean, most important stakeholder group. Mike says it's the customer. Do you agree with that or disagree?
I agree with Mike on that. The customer, like we spoke about that first day, impact and profit. The customer is who we're trying to have an impact on, and we're also getting the profit from the customer. So we can't get the profit without the customer. We can't have an impact without the customer.
Okay, got you. Dwayne, what you say about this?
I agree. Definitely the customer, because in the beginning, before you even approach the customer, you have to have a mission. And the mission is about what you want to accomplish. So if you want to help, whether it's a business, whether it's a person, a group of people, you still have to maintain that mission. And that mission is helping people, helping a situation. And that defines itself as customers. So you need customers to accomplish your mission.
Okay. So I got three there. John, what'd you say about all this? You siding with the fellas? Going out on your own?
I'm gonna have to go with the customer. As much as I think funder would be a crucial element, it's at the end of the day you got to have people to help. So without that, you can't execute your plan.
Okay. Brandon.
I'm actually going to partially agree with that. Customers, while they're very important, we can't help them if we don't have employers. Right? If you have a group of employers that have positions and you're working with people and trying to fill this need for them, they're in turn a customer. But if you don't have the employers and you just have schools, or you just have people giving you, here's all these students, can you help us and train them all? The goal of KP is to get these people jobs and get them hired. And so I think that a crucial part of this stakeholder model is the employers themselves, because you got to have those places to put them. If Connect Potential wasn't hiring, what good is this? This cohort could still help no matter what, but with Connect Potential actually hiring people, you know that in the background you have somewhere to place these people as we complete. And so I think that employee goes kind of employer to the customer, and they kind of go hand in hand.
Oh, okay, that's a different take on it. Mike, you hear what Brandon said? What you think, man?
I like Brandon a lot, but I disagree. I still think it's customer.
All right. Let me ask any of the ladies. Ladies, the guys are making these arguments. Tanya, you are center in my screen. So what say of you? The guys have mentioned there was a lot of focus on the customers. There was a funder missing by John, kind of in passing. He said that they kind of think something we should think about, but he ain't voting for them yet. And then the employers, Brandon made a case for the employers. Tanya, where you at with this?
I'm kind of with Brandon and John. You have to have the customers, but you've also got to have the employers and the funders, but you also need the service providers, because they're the ones that's helping everybody do the services.
So she want the whole model.
And this picture got everybody.
Yeah.
This picture got everybody. I'm trying to find out who the most important.
The most important, you have to start with the customers, but then you also need those employers. So you need those two. That's my most important.
All right. But if you had to pick one, where you going?
I would say the customers.
All right, you're gonna line up with the customer. Kiona, you're in my shot now too. So what do you think about this?
I was going to tell Tanya, don't let him punk you. Go with all of them. That's what I said. All of them important.
I'm not letting nobody punk me.
Don't let them. Come on, you Jeep girl. Don't let them hit you.
Exactly.
I was gonna back you up and be like, everybody's important. Definitely the customers. But
go ahead. No, go ahead. No, please finish.
I was gonna say definitely the customers are important, but like once we get them trained, it's great they have this training now. They understand they have something they can take, but where are they gonna take them if there's no employers? So, I'm with her. It's like everybody plays a part. They're all important.
Thank you.
But she said that she had to go and she had to make that final choice. She was gonna go with the customer. You agree with that?
You should have stuck to what you said. Let me see. I want to be different, but customers are very important. Employers, I'm gonna say employers just so I can be different. You got to have the employers so that people can have jobs. We need jobs.
Yeah, I got someone in my corner.
There you go, Brandon. You got to politic, Brandon. This is about building relationships. You got to be out there politics answers, man. All right, Camille.
So I guess I'm going to stand out and be different. I'm going with funders because at the end of the day, someone has to cover the cost for the work that you're trying to do to help the job seekers and the employers.
Well stated. Well stated. Dwayne, man, I see you nodding your head, man. Where you at with your answer now? You got there's a lot of conversation now, Dwayne. What's up?
Yeah, so I'm still on the mission. So what is the mission? The mission is to find the customers. So you need customers. You have to have something to talk about when you do approach the funders. So they're second. And then also the employers come in third. Customer is going to always be first.
So can I ask, when you have the customer.
Go ahead, Camille.
So I was going to throw it out there to him, right? So when you have that customer, who is paying the person that is interacting with the customer? Who is paying the person that's going out to the businesses to sell that customer?
Great point. But the key word that you said is when. So you have to have the customer first in order to talk, or should I say, in order to transition into your win, you have to have a customer first. Customer is your mission. So you have to have a mission statement and a mission purpose first, right?
But you don't have to have a program first in order to bring the customer into something, and you need funds to develop that program.
But you do have to have a purpose.
Go ahead, Don. You want to add on this? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just say also, why I said funders also, because I know when we lost funding, we couldn't help the customer or the employer because we didn't have any money to help anybody. So it goes together. And then we had a bad customer.
Yes.
Yes, there could be some bad actors. Arlene, you listening to this very attentively, I see. Come on here and drop that wisdom.
I'm going to have to go with Camille and say the funders, because I feel like even now with our situation, our program is somewhat not scheduled like we wanted to because we have to get the funding in place. And also based on the podcast, it seemed like you had to, that was your biggest thing, trying to get someone buy-in on what your project was, trying to get someone to support you, to support the funding and everything. I'm going to say funders. I'm going to say funders, because if you go to the customer and you get them all souped up and you don't have the money to do it, it's very discouraging. You feel a little bit more confident when you have the funders.
Yeah. Well, your pockets definitely feel better. Ain't no doubt about that. And you got some funders, so there's no doubt about that. John, I think you last up. I hear you gave me some good answers, but we went back and forth. So what do you say about this? Anything you want to add? I'm come back around to you one last time.
Well, I got to stick with my, I'm kind of splitting the hairs here. I really think it's a combination of the two. But yeah, at the end of the day, I still think it's got to be the customer.
All right, so let me tell you guys what I think about this, and in terms of how I want you guys to think about this going forward. I mean, it's a tough question, right? Because, a lot of the logic that you guys have talked about is important in terms of some of the considerations here. But without a doubt, the employers have to be number one. And I think, Dwayne, you were off to, a really great start when you talked about the mission, but our mission is to get people into jobs. So no matter what we do, we got to have a strong relationship with the employers, right? We've got to be connected with the employers, because how else can we place people in jobs if we're not connected with the employers? If we train you, even if you paid me to train you and I can't get you no job, how much better off have I made you? And ultimately, remember, the big issue in terms of what we're trying to do is manage a supply of talent and to where the demand of talent is for, right? So the employers create the demand. So we have to really view the system from the perspective of the employers. What do the employers need? That should dictate what kind of service providers, right? What kind of jobs they want, what kind of skills they want. The employers have to really drive everything. Okay. So the employers are number one. Like in the long-term sustainable model, in an ideal world, that's who you want first, right? It doesn't always happen like that. We don't always go into a community and have the employers all lined up, right? Because WIOA is a funding mechanism, right? Everyone's familiar when I say WIOA, how WIOA is a funding mechanism? Or should I clarify that? Does everyone understand that? Or, all right. David, you got that? Well, why WIOA is one of our funding mechanism, how we view that? Yes, you.
Yeah, I understand. They pay for me, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying, right? So, and we are a WIOA provider in lots of places where we are just introducing ourselves in those communities. So sometimes, even though the funder might come first, we can't really do the solution without the employer, right? Like we can't do this without the employer. So ultimately, we have to have the employer dictate what we're producing. What kind of talent do we need? Right? So that's why they're so critical, right? Because they're placing the order. Right? So the employer is our number one priority is around what the employer needs, because the employer also has lots of resources they can bring to the table, right? They've got funding they can bring to the table. Because once you get some money, you could go out and find you any school or customer that's like, sure, you want to spend your money on me? Yeah, cool, right? So the two things that become most critical to having a program are the highest priority is certainly the employer, and then followed by the funder. Now, those two things could be one and the same, right? But right, because the employer could have a foundation, Verizon Foundation, as an example. Those two things can be one and the same, or the employer might put up some money for whatever reason, but they could help fund the programs. Now, we don't always get the employees first, right? Because sometimes the employer needs to see it in action, because it's not just a given that they're going to do it. And there's some structural reasons. We'll get into like more details about each of those actor types and what some of the challenges are. But the employees are first. They have to create the demand for the system to work, right? So demand-driven system means that there's got to be a pull, there's got to be a pull in the direction toward the employers that pulls the chain through. The employers have to create the inertia that creates the pull for everyone to come through the channel. All right. Green is the money, right? If you see this green, these are the money people. So like Camille was saying, you can't do anything if you don't got the money to do it. And what the other point I would emphasize here is that if you had, like with WIOA, if all we had was the WIOA money and we never got people employed, then the WIOA money eventually would go away and we would not have a sustainable solution. But if we deliver a product to the employers that they are vested in and contributing to, you'll have a sustainable solution that can perpetuate itself. Okay, so ultimately getting ourselves, and you have to mature into that, right? I mean, a lot of employers are skittish for lots of reasons, but you have to mature into it that these employers see you as a source of talent, right? That they see the system as a way for them to get their talent. Who are the ideal employers, given what you guys understand about our work? Who are the ideal employers who we should target first to be the recipients of our talent? Brandon.
I got a quick question regarding the employers. When you're selling, we're going to the employers and we're trying to get, we're trying to bring employers on board. And so let's look at a company like Amazon, or you look at, the government too. Like in my geographical area, there's a ton of government jobs, a ton of cybersecurity jobs, and there's a lot of tech companies who also take the cybersecurity and everything. So my question is, they could go to a recruiting firm, an expensive recruiting firm that they have, and say, hey, we're going to pay you guys, find us, people with bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and, X amount of years of service and bring them over. How, you're going to train them and give us employees. There's a shortage of employees, but there's not a shortage of, people that are out there to take advantage of it. And so, sorry, I didn't think my question out clearly before I said it.
Well,
I guess my question is, like, if let's just use Amazon as an example. It's a big one, and obviously, they have their own way of skinning the cat. But if I was to go to Amazon and say, hey, we're Connect Potential, we provide training, we got cybersecurity training, we got project management, they utilize both of those big time at Amazon. But they also have a big portfolio of people waiting, and they also have a big, their recruiting staff is huge. And so how do you stand out as an organization with KP above a company with a huge recruiting, portion, such as like Amazon's or T-Mobile's in Bellevue or Verizon?
Yeah, The way I stand out with Amazon, to be perfectly candid with you, I call up my account manager because we use Amazon Web Services, and I first start talking to them, and I say, "Hey, I'm a partner, and I do this, and I really want to have a different type of partnership with you as a customer, right?" So I leverage the
Okay.
fact that I'm spending money with them. Secondly, I also then call the person up that we have a virtual economy, and we hand out Amazon gift cards that it can be converted into. So I leverage my relationship with Amazon as a customer, a direct customer,
Mhm.
and I explain that what I do in their communities, and I say, connect me to your community partner. But then I start talking with the community partner about how, like, I understand Amazon wants to know community, right? I understand what jobs are hiring,
Mhm.
and that's how I begin the conversation with them. I'm also very familiar with
Okay.
all the work that Amazon is doing, where without even a formal partnership, I may be asking, well, how can I get my people involved with that program you have? Right? You guys are hiring
Mhm.
people and then giving them community college after 1 year. What jobs are those? Oh, those are the warehouse jobs. Hey, look, I got a bunch of people who I'm developing out of the local high school right next to where
Oh.
I'm, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Now I see where you're coming from. You're not going for, we're going to stick you into a senior program manager role. We're going to stick you into a developer role or a cybersecurity role. We're going to say, hey, we want to develop the employees that you have. You've already said that this person's Amazonian. They want to be part of the Amazon culture and they already found that fit, but they want to develop them more. So Kinetic Potential can come in and help develop
We could,
the
we could help with
employees that
that.
they already have.
As an example, in my area, in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, I think some of you guys live by here, by around me, but in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, Amazon is actually coming. They're building a warehouse here, right? Now, first of all, I already knew that because I work with the Economic Development Center, and I'm already aware of what Amazon's doing with the unemployment agency as they're thinking about staffing, because that's where they go to actually do all that. And just like MGM is
Mhm.
here and they've got this commitment with the county to have to put money back into the school. Well, I'm familiar with all these little deals that are going on, and I'm saying, hey, we should be part of that too. So a lot of this is understanding how these economic development deals go, right? When you're trying to attract employers in the area, you're trying to make them make a commitment to the school system. We've got great relationship with the school system. So it's about having these relationships and helping people see how, if we work together, we can build this program to meet everyone's need. It's really just creating that vision for them. Um, but going back to what we're saying in terms of the role. So first is the employer. Second is the funder. Because I think Camille made the point, I think, to Dwayne, which I would really want everyone to take away. Like, we could go to a bunch of school and get a bunch of kids, but someone got to pay for that. Like, you can't have no after school program working on fumes. And one of the things I hate is I don't like when the school asks me to do things on a shoestring budget, right? Like, I'm not a cheap resource. Like, it costs to have me on the scene. It costs to have my team on the scene. So I don't want to be trying to nickel and dime and do these things. We ain't really got enough money, right? I mean, if the work is really important, let's fund it correctly and let's get it done right with a level of professionalism that you just don't typically see in this space. And that's kind of what I think we bring to the table is helping them figure out how to fund it so that we can take their smaller budgets and how things, like, schools always trying to do something for like $1, right? It's like, I got how much money you got? I got $1. I need a 5-year program and I got $2. That's kind of the school system oftentimes. So we have to help them understand how we can get these additional resources in, because schools don't typically have much money. So employer, funder, customer, right? That sequence. Now, you may not get the employer first. That's your highest priority because you need someone to place them. You may not get the employer first. So then because like WIOA, in some places, we've gotten our WIOA funding, access to WIOA funding as the first mechanism. We can then go to a school or a partner and say, hey, look, we can run this program for you because we know we've got some money in the short term, right? Because WIOA funding can't sustain something forever, right? Government funding is not a sustainable model for, right? Administration changes, policy changes, budget cuts come, then boom. So we can't depend on government funding, but we can do our demonstrations and create value in the short term with the government programs, but sustainability requires the employers to buy in. Next is the service providers, right? Like, oh, I got some money. I know what I'm shooting for in terms of how I want to train people. And now I know where I'm getting the people from. I know who I'm going to partner with to deliver the services myself. And then the last one are just individuals who want to help. How do we fit them in, right? This model, volunteers, right? That have a lot to contribute, but they're kind of just a support mechanism around the whole model. Okay. Those are the roles of the actors. Okay. Those are the roles of the actors. Who is the most difficult actor to work with, do you think? You know, this is about relationships, you know, this is really literally about relationships. I'll put this back up. Oops. Which one of these guys do you think, either from your own personal experience, if you have experience working with them, or guessing on the view that I'll share about KP's experience? I don't know if it's easier for you guys to think about it like this or to see it in this picture. I guess here, because we have the names. Okay. What do you guys think? Who's the most difficult to work with?
I would think that it would be the customer.
I would say the
If I
customer.
had to choose, definitely because the customer, like they don't have to do certain things. So like when you was on us about getting these emails and turning in paperwork and stuff like that, and if we kept dragging and stuff like that, it would throw off your timeline or mess up what you're doing. Or if you giving me assignments or work to do and I don't do them, I'm stopping and I'm holding up the whole process.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have a different answer beside customer, or anyone on the customer?
I say funders. Because funders always want to know the soup. They want to know everything, right? They want to know that the money that they're given, the money that they're providing is going to do what it's supposed to do. And then if the funders are government, you know, WIOA, government's not easy to work with. There's a ton of paperwork and hoops to jump through with government. It's always been like that. So I feel like the funders is probably one of the harder things. I mean, employers should be fairly easy because you're filling a role for them. You know, you're helping them. You know, they're going to bring more profit to the table. So I ultimately really think that the funding part of it is the more difficult out of any of those.
Okay, so I got David with customer, I got Brandon with funders. Any other answer? Any co-signing? Go ahead, Tanya.
I say the employer is, and the reason because of that is they have specific needs and wants and ideas of what they want in an employee.
I got customer, funders, and employers on the table. Anybody else? Arlene, where you at with this?
Question first, which group does DOL fall under?
Well, it depends on what part of DOL. DOL is a big agency. But the part that handles the WIOA legislation for us, they fall under the funders.
Okay, that's what I was thinking the funders.
Yeah, but remember, like any other government, everybody is an employer, right? Because DOL definitely have open positions, right? They're hiring people and stuff like that. So, you know, always remember everyone is an employer by definition of what our model.
Yeah, I would say the funders, because of course they are very conscious of where their money is going. And also they have a lot of guidelines that they have to follow. Compliance is the issue at the end of the day.
So my experience in terms of doing this, right? my experience that the most difficult people to work with, the most difficult group are the customers. Working with the schools, working with the churches, I find to be draining and tiring. There's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of protocol, there's a lot of personality with these guys, right? And particularly, we have a strategy, and I'll talk strategy next week, but part of our strategy is partnering with community-based organizations, particularly churches. So we always go after that, and we've had some successes, but there's a lot of personalities. And I asked a church leader once, why am I having so much difficulty getting these programs scheduled with the churches? Because we go out and get the money, right? We pay for ourselves, right? We got a WIOA contract, we've got a funding mechanism, we want to work at you're a central place in the community, you got a congregation we could work with, like it should be like no brainer. But we find that people who are in these volunteer organizations or these quasi-government organizations are very stuck on their leadership and making sure that that they are in charge. And if things don't go through the right way, and it's just a lot of personality that you have to deal with, a lot of people issues that you have to deal with in the schools. When you have a great school partner, it's really simple. But when you have someone, and sometimes this is, did you build a relationship top down? Oftentimes I'm dealing with Board of Education or someone, a policymaker, right? The elected official for a district or a county council member to say like, look, hey, I could bring this program to your community and I'm gonna pay for it myself. It's gonna be a feather in your hat, Mr. Policy Person. And you go tell the superintendent and you get these other people on board, and that happens. But if you are like senior leadership and Jim Smith, some big city DC, come into town and you went to my boss's boss and now I got to do this work and I'm not getting paid for it, and you going over my head and my boss is calling me and now it's because of you, blah, 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 blah. This is what happens. In the church, you didn't ask me to get permission to use that room, and no one told me and informed me about what was going on. So no, it's not going to happen. I don't care if those kids standing outside all day. And that y'all better come to me first because I'm in charge. This is how it goes. I mean, these are my real experiences. I mean, please, and when you guys remind me when I've had a couple of libations in me, and I got much better stories to give you than those. But today I'm teaching, so I won't go into all of that. But in any case, it is true that it's a relationship, and how you build that relationship, how you understand the organizational culture is critically important, right? Should you go to the principal first, or should you go to the board member? Depends on the community, right? Depends on how they're set up. Depends on the dynamics of the politics, in the area. So, I want you guys to be mindful that even though we're doing good things, you would think that everyone would come on board and say, right, like we're doing WIOA, and if you're eligible, you ain't got to pay nothing, it's just, free. But still, right, you got to explain it to people, right? You got to explain so that can be a challenge. I personally, I think as the creator of this, think about myself in those situations, like I'm just trying to help you, right? But you have to have a consulting approach. You got to have a consultative approach and not take these things personally. And certainly you got to understand these things going in so that you don't exacerbate some of these existing tensions. Okay, that's really important. Okay, so those are the two questions. So your assignment is going to be, it'll probably show up in your KP Life assignment queue. Now, everyone's in, right? Everyone's in our technology. Who's not in? Camille's not in. Camille, I'm meeting with you today, so you're going to be in, I think, by tomorrow. So I knew about your situation. David, what's your situation?
I had a error when I tried to click on the class. Boris had told me to do the like orientation or something of that nature. And when I had tried to go in and click on it, it said I wasn't registered for the class or something like that.
Yeah, so no one, even though you guys had it viewed, the way that it's structured, we turned it off because we didn't want, as we know, when people get in, they're clicking around, they're trying to learn, they're trying to see what's going on, what's this, what's that. But if you click the wrong thing, you would actually start the class and then you would have a start date of that date. So we had to turn that off while we were waiting, so that no one had a start date that was before it was approved. So that's why you guys got that error. I heard a lot of you guys got that error, and these things get to me. And so I did hear that, but that's what was going on. We like I said in the beginning, we decided that we're going to go Monday with some of you guys just so we can kind of stay on track. We're just trying to work through that and do the most logical thing here. But just kind of hang tight. It looks like it's almost all worked out with that.
So you'll be able to access the assignment without having to log in?
You can get the video, and thanks. We'll make a point to get that, but you should be able to log in. So David,
yeah, I can log in. I just can't click on the class, so I don't need to click on the class. Is what you're saying?
I'm sure they'll make it available so that you can get it, but I'll just let them know. And I think we are, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that they're setting it up so by Monday, you guys will be able to get into that class. But the broader system, you should be able to give you the assignment, right? You should be able to get the assignment without being in that class. But I will make a note of that because we want everyone to be able to get in the assignment. So let me just quickly reiterate the assignment. Or did someone else say they couldn't get in?
No, I had a quick question. I know some of the assignments, like the YouTube and the podcast, is there a way you want us to notate that we have completed it? I know we can't check anything or whatever. Does that make sense?
So typically in our system, one of the good things, and I think someone mentioned this about the reporting and all the tracking. So the system is built to track like anything and everything you do. You click on something, we probably know about it, right? And so the system will tell us if you clicked on it. We are doing some of this outside the system because we're gating this for the start date. So some of it you might just get as a direct email wherever we put it out on YouTube channel or something like that. You will find that once you kind of get in, everything is kind of there on the calendar, but we'll get it to you some way or somehow to make sure everyone gets the assignment. So I'll talk to these guys in the morning. What's the best way for you guys to get it? I just haven't officially wrote it all up. I thought about it and I have it, but I just haven't typed it. So I'll type that tonight. But I can tell you what I want you guys to do is write a 1 to 2 page essay. And I want you guys to create your own sample talent supply chain. Okay. So what that means is when you think about your territory or a territory that you're comfortable with, really a geography, begin to tell me who are those stakeholders who you envision working with, and begin to think about how they might work together with the goal of moving someone into the next level. Let me just share my screen again so I can clarify this. So this is a talent supply chain. And what I'm asking you are, well, who are these actors going to be in your model? Who are you going to be talking about? Who are you going to be targeting? Right? And what grade level do you think, what level will your target be at? Okay. So everything from here to here, this is K through 12, right? And everything in here, whoops, this is our adult learning, right? And we call this our academy. And this is our university. Some people might be thinking, man, I think I can have a big impact in K through 12, or I think I can have a big impact in, with this group right here, right? This group where you guys are, like the apprentices, people are coming through like WEO or something like that. What you would be saying, if those of you guys were talking about what's going on here, you might be talking about the WEO funding, right? this is who you might use as your funder, but where are you going to get the people from? Like, who's going to be the employer? Like, this is, so when you think about it, right, for at KP, the way that you have to think about our work is you're like and I always have to be careful how I explain this. So I'm only going to do a little bit tonight, and then I'll talk about it next week. But the way I think about the work that we do is I think about it as like a portfolio, right? Like, you guys are a portfolio for me. Like, all of you guys are here, and my goal is to try to help make all of you guys successful. And the measurement of that is what you guys do after, participating in our program. And so the people who I'm asking you guys to go and help people become successful. So becoming successful isn't just getting people into our training class, right? Like, from a revenue perspective of business, yes, that's how we make some money. But that's how we meet people to decide, like, how we're going to invest in them. Like, how are we going to help them? Like, it's not enough to just get them into a class. We have to be thinking about, how will we move them forward? Like, what else will they need besides this? What is the path? Like, if Mike is working with, young people, he's doing his basketball thing. So if me and Mike is out scouting for the next, player to be on our AAU team, Mike, I didn't tell you I want to have an AAU team. So, you're going to have to coach these boys up. But if we out there looking for a player, how do we have in our mind what the strategy is to get that kid put on? Right? Just like a coach is thinking about developing them to get into college, right? Got to get your jump shot together. We got to get that first step together. Got to get your defense together. Got to get you stronger. Like, that's your job with the non-athlete, right? Like, how are we going to get you to be a pro? What do you need to be doing? What's our strategy for doing that? Certainly getting a credential and have an opportunity to be exposed to KP. I think, to like David's point, like how we do things. No, it's not acceptable if I told you to get it in by such a time to be late. That's just absolutely unacceptable. We don't let that happen. But that's the training that people have to get to know so that they can be a more solid employee for wherever they're at. Okay. And then the last thing I just want to say, employers are the most critical, but you don't always have them right away. So how does KP solve that problem? Like, we got WIOA funding. Let's just use this example, right? So here we got the WIOA funding. Like, how are we going to get the employers to sign up? Like, what's our strategy? Let's all get on the same page about, like, man, how can we get these employers signed up, right? In an area like cybersecurity, take something that's a little easier. How are we, KP, going to do that? You guys wondering the same question? Anybody have any suggestions?
First, we have to look at the need or demand for cybersecurity, and then go to those employers that have a higher need and high demand, and say basically that we could fill this need or demand for you, given our.
Brandon made the point, man, like, Amazon got all these people coming to them every day, man. They got all of this going on. Why are they gonna listen to us? That's what Brandon was saying earlier. Like, that's his thing. His thing is, like, you can't just walk in the door and say that, because there's so much noise. How are you gonna separate yourself and become the partner of choice? Because that is something that you got to do. You got to put yourself in a position that people want your talent. John, you're spending time on this. You work with the business community. So how do we do that?
It's about starting a relationship. It's about establishing that relationship. I guess, my past practices has been getting out there and shaking some hands. Going to the right networking profiles.
That sounds like a pre-COVID activity.
Well, yeah, it is. It is actually. It is. I mean, I'd have to network and meet the right people, and then sit down and have a meeting.
People that we want the employers, then who is the right person at the employer? Who are we looking for in the employer agency? What function?
Well, normally when I'm at a chamber meeting or a conference meeting or something like that, I'm meeting the DM or the GM or someone at the top. It's usually a senior level person. And from there, I would then get a meeting with either them and or their person who's in charge of recruitment, HR, et cetera. And then I would proposition them on, the actual plan. So that would be one way of doing it. I'm not saying that would be the way to do it now with the whole pandemic going on. So I've got to come up with a different strategy of how do I reach these people? How am I able to rub elbows with these individuals the way we are right now? So I think that's the challenge is finding a way.
All right. Dwayne, what you think?
Well, from my background, what I would do first, one is match apples to apples. So learn and be robust with my portfolio. And then within my target area, I would find employers, customers that match me. So it's kind of like, work smarter, not harder, where you can touch base with a lot of people, but I want to find a specific audience. So I would start there. So what company is going to need what I have to offer? And then I would match with them. So I can speak to a million people, but I want to speak to specific people.
So in DC, just to make this tangible, to make it tangible, in DC, using cybersecurity, most of the defense contractors that partner with the federal government need more cybersecurity analysts. So now what do we do? Like, there's a bunch of defense contractors in DC that need more cybersecurity analysts. We're developing cybersecurity analysts. What do we do now?
So it's a numbers game from there. You have to contact as many people as possible. So you're gonna have to go through a few no's to get to that yes, but you still have to have that activity where you're speaking to specific people. So with the pandemic age right now with COVID, you got to use resources such as websites, LinkedIn, if you have that, using those to get through to the right people. So with specific companies, or as you say, with the government entities, you find that department and then you just go from there. You reach out to each person. If they have an email, you make contact with each person in that division, then you got to fight for those yeses.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go through the notes.
That's some brute force, right? You just kind of got to pound until you get through. That's kind of what John is saying too.
And vetting and trying to reach the right people to talk to.
Got you. Can you guys hear me okay, or did my audio go out? You guys hear me okay? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Go ahead, Dwayne. Sorry, finish up.
No, I couldn't even hear anything that you said because the audio was bad. Oh, but okay. I hope everybody gets the gist of it. You gotta pound and grind.
Yeah, we got that. Camille, I mean, you see this from obviously different lenses like John. So what's your take on this in terms of, right? Because the workforce agencies, at the end of the day, that's what really matters, right? So how do you do that, Camille?
So one of a kind of similar to what John said, right? It's about networking. So it's utilizing those SHRM connections, because my thing is, and I love SHRM, because once someone is in HR, they're always in HR. So you make those connections with those HR professionals, and when they go from business to business, they bring you right along with them. And as Dwayne said, utilizing LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can find out who's a recruiter. That's a good resource to have. Also, depending on the population you're working with, and I know you talked about RSA in one of the previous conversations. Every federal government entity has what's the correct term? A position where they're trying to utilize the federal government to set the example for diversifying their workforce. So it's very not a disability coordinator, but it's, what was that?
Very politically correct.
I know, I'm trying to find the correct words, Jim, gosh. I've learned, be careful what you're saying, right? Because you never know if it ends up in the news. So I always try to be politically correct. But each of them have someone that's within the HR department that they're trying to utilize to
Diversity.
diversify the workforce.
Yeah, usually a diversity coordinator. Or someone
Yeah, but it's something else. So that's what I'm saying. Those are methods that can be utilized currently. LinkedIn is your best friend, and also networking groups. So if you are a part of chamber, or when you talk about the entity, so like for example, when you have PMPs, you have the PMI entity that does the licensing. So when you're a member of that and you can post and interact with others and talk about job openings, and also on social media, there's various groups on social media. On Facebook, I'm a part of the DMV jobs group. Everyone's always posting different things. Different companies are looking for different things. Also connecting with temp agencies. So there's various.
Yeah.
Take up too much time since I'm the shy and quiet one.
No, we need that. Look, this is not for the shy and quiet, right? You know, you out there networking, trying to build these partnerships. You got to be able to.
So I'm an introvert. Like I don't speak.
Well, welcome today. Soon we have you teaching. We have you up here, and I'll be sitting in your spot. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else in terms of the employers? Go ahead, Brandon.
With COVID right now, a big access point for us could be the online virtual career fairs. You know, at these career fairs, you got, I went to one, it was a military one or a veterans career fair, and it was a national one. And there was companies from all over, and they break it up too in, 3 sections. We'll do like a mid and a west and an East Coast section. But I feel like, the people that were at these career fairs were the people that were hiring, and they knew specifically what they were looking for. And some of them were looking for like stuff like cybersecurity. At Amazon Prime Air, was one of the guys at the last one. So I think if you were to, if I was to attend more of those, as a kinetic potential, part of that as an employer, that's also a way to connect with the other employers that are at those virtual career fairs. And I think that not only are you getting, visibility to customers, from the, training type standpoint, you're also getting access to customers and employers that, you can kind of gauge, who's looking for what, how much are they looking for, who's out there, and who do I talk to? Because they were all very open. They all passed out all their LinkedIns, they passed out emails. There were some great things. So I feel like that would be, especially in this day and age, a great way to connect with those employers.
So I think those are all these ideas, I think, are good suggestions, right? And I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's about your personal style, how you build relationships, but certainly there's a lot of engagement that needs to happen, particularly targeted to the HR professional at the business. But I want to just kind of show, the concern I have about what some of the suggestions is that it takes some time to get the employer in that way, right? So what we say, what we can control first is KP, because KP is an employer. So it's easy to sell me and KP that the talent that we are training, that we should be able to put them to use in our own operations. Right? We are the example of how this works. Does that make sense to everyone? This is a very important point. So I don't know if I can see you guys and talk. Oh, yeah, I think I can. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody in terms of this is a big problem. Like when the employers are most important and it takes time to develop that relationship, how can we make this sustainable and get that in place? Well, we can be the employer. So the people we have here first are the demonstration of how this works, right? And you guys are experienced talent that has more than maybe some of the folks we are going to typically see. And so, but we're still training you guys in the way that we are developing you for a particular role. right? We are putting you in our pipeline to get you ready for a specific role. And you guys really, it's important how well that we can demonstrate that we can make you guys productive in what we want, because that further demonstrate the model for others. So why we're so selective about the people that we are choosing, particularly right now, is because to be able to get other employers, it's good to be able to see it working, right? So Brandon had an opportunity to sit in with us with one of our meetings for briefly. But so what can KP do if we're going to be an employer, right? And we're going to develop the talent. So we're one of the employers, and what kind of talent do we need? Remember I said the employers tell you what kind of talent they need. So one of the things that we want to bring to the market is cyber security services. So when we're training people for cybersecurity, it's because we know we want to offer this to others in the marketplace. Right? This is our service. Right? So these are our services. This is why we can hire people we train in cybersecurity. Right? What else do we do? Well, we've got this whole WIOA line of business, right? So we know that we've got money here to do something. So this means that we can actually now train people in project management to run those projects for us. This is what we mean by we have a very clear idea of what it takes to do this. So, and you'll see that this training and that you guys are going through is very much designed for people to help us with this. Right? There's this focus on how the community stakeholder model works, how the talent supply chain works, thinking you guys think about how you're going to get the partners, right? We're building that skill up for you so that you guys can come and help us with this. Okay. We really like, I mean, cyber is good for everyone, but this, I have a particular focus for the veterans for this program. So when we're training for cyber, we're really focusing as a key group, our veterans and our K through 12 as well. But the veterans are important because of our overall strategy. Okay. Who did I say needed more cyber professionals? I think I told Dwayne that. Who did I say needed more cyber professionals?
Lots of places in DC.
Yeah.
Bunch of government agencies.
Government contractors.
Government contractors, right?
And the
Defense-
military.
I was getting to it. Sorry, I was on mute.
That's all right. That's why you got these great teammates backing you up. All right, so the defense contractors are here. You know what we say? So like one of the conversations we're having right now is with CACI. Everybody know CACI? Just a very large government contractor in the DC area, okay? For those of you guys who are not familiar, right? I've got a good friend at CACI, relationships, right? Someone who used to work with me at the other consulting firm, and now he's a big wig over here at CACI. And I say, hey, JP, you know, I got this idea. I'm training this talent and I'm training these veterans. And oh, by the way, you know, these veterans have, you know, security clearances. I know you guys are having a difficult time finding cyber professionals that are cleared, right? That have TSSCI, right? But the veterans we're looking for, we want them to have that profile so that CACI can partner with KP and we could be a sub to them. We could be a subcontractor to them. And that this way they will get a chance to experience our cyber professionals. We will make money consulting with them. These guys, the vets will be employees of KP, but CACI knows that we are open to them hiring our staff members. All right, we're open to them hiring our staff members because we are at the entry point. So everyone who comes in with us, you got to grow and develop and go up, right? You can't just come in and be like a deputy account manager for like years and years and years, because then we wouldn't be able to give that position to someone else for training. You know, everyone's got to kind of grow so they can take on more roles, and let the entry roles at the bottom be available for the new trainees, the new people who are coming in. And for this philosophy, it means that we also have to be good at building, creating demand, right? Because employers create demand. So we've got to create projects that give people things to do. So we don't just hire people and like, oh, you're nice and you're smart, right? We've got to be able to see that we're going to have another project that will support you because we are expanding our programs. So if you're in Washington State or you're in North Carolina, as an example, we're not there, it's your opportunity to help us build this. And that's what we need from you, right? We need to teach you how we do it. And then you got to build this same model with the schools and all the ways that we do it here that you'll learn about in these other communities. And that's what creates jobs. Your effort should not just create a job for yourself. Your effort should create jobs for people in that community that you're concerned about. That's what I want you guys to be thinking about. That we are, as an employer, we are creating jobs. And when you are able to be successful in implementing our program, this will create jobs for the community, for others, for the people that we are training within our network. Does that make sense? I know it's a bunch of scribble here. Arlene, you're gonna get used to it. This is what I do all day. Okay, so the first thing in terms of when I think about the ability to say we're putting people to work with KP or our partners, this is one example. If we are subcontracted and then CACI gets an opportunity to develop a relationship with our talent, see them at work, feel comfortable with them, and then make the transition. Okay, that's win-win all the way around, because even when we train the folks, KP got paid to do that, right? But we also are getting paid when we're working with CACI as a subcontractor. Now, this is, veterans, there are a lot of veterans at CACI that are really partial to this. They like that idea. There are a lot of veterans who are at leadership positions that would be open to this kind of government contracting. But the critical thing to understand is, why does CACI want to subcontract it with KP? How do we make that more attractive for them?
Because you're taking the responsibility of creating the model employee for them. You've got funding to put them through the training. You're teaching them to be responsible. You're teaching them the skills that they need. And you're giving them a shot without them having to sign a full employment contract to test out some of these employees.
All right, so we're basically going to get them some talent. But again, I think this goes back to what I think Brandon, what you were saying, that like it's competitive. CACI is a large organization. They got a big recruiting firm. They're out there on LinkedIn. They're doing all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So why do they need KP? How do we make ourselves like a valuable partner to them in terms of what CACI might need and their government contracting space? What can we bring to the table, right? The talent is important, but what also is important is that they're having a hard time with clear talent. So this is one thing that really will separate us immediately, is that we can get people with clearances, right? Because most of the people who are in the military that we're going to select will already have this. So that's going to give us an advantage right now. We're going to teach them cyber. So this is interesting, but this is not enough to, I think, to get the deal done in a way that would move the needle quickly. Anyone else? Anyone been involved with government contracting that has a sense of what's, what would be important to the vendors?
They like things done fast. Your government contracts, if things pop up and they say, well, crap, we need 50 people. We got to fill this now because we got this contract. And I worked with, L3 overseas for a while. And I know with them, their security clearances, even for their helicopter mechanics and stuff, because of all the equipment that they're around.
Yep,
And
so
they need,
cyber's big.
yeah, so they need, yeah. So I think the biggest thing is the speed.
Put it together. They should just take
Yeah.
us. Okay, but there's something that's really critical. That's the glue for these kind of deals. What do you guys think?
So I think, as you said, people use Indeed and all of these other recruiting services. But when you do that, you still have to utilize staff to weed through and make sure that the person is what you're actually looking for. So if we can go to them and say, you tell us, as we said before, you tell us the profile of your ideal candidate, we're giving you better quality. And at the end of the day, our candidates are what the position is looking for.
Right, but we got to give them an incentive to get to do that with us. They got to be incentivized to do that first, right? Because everyone off the streets has the same thing. We can help you, CACI. Everyone who is working with talent and doing any kind of training, everyone's telling them that. So what is it that about us that makes us unique? And it's not our training, just so everyone just realizes it. It's not what we do with the people. It's something about KP.
Would it have something to do with like an OJT work experience type of model?
Nah, this is straight business. Let me just give it to you guys, right? So in government contracting, right? So what does the US government say to contracting agencies? Right? I think this is what you were saying before, Camille. They say, you know what? You better have 15% of your projects with 8A firms.
So
they also
the criteria for different pools.
They also say, well, you got to have 10% of a hub zone partner.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon, I know you're familiar with this. They may say, we want 10% of the business to be in an opportunity zone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These are all economic development tools, right? Designed to help small businesses, minority-owned businesses, disadvantaged businesses. So because the contractor has these set asides, well, KP is a minority-owned business. We are MBE, SBE, VBE, a bunch of BEs.
A whole bunch of letters.
Right? We are strategically placing our programs in hub zones. And this is why they want to contract with us. Because now, not only are we going to help you with the talent, but we're going to help you win the deals because you need a partner that can do this. And there are not many people who can offer that and give you the cybersecurity talent. So by structurally, in terms of how we position this, also there's set aside for veterans. So we also want the veterans to be able to get into an equity position. Equity meaning that they can own some of the business, so that then it increases us not even having to go through CACI, but the veterans can then own like a KP franchise and then run these kind of programs in those communities and have ownership in the deals that we do. Right? Because for me, in terms of trying to help a lot of people, it's less about what I can do as an individual and more about how I can impact individuals to help lots of people, right? How can I train you guys? Like for me, if I want to help 1,000 people this year, I got to get you guys to help me do that, right? Like you guys got to take on, someone's got to take on 50 kids, and someone's got to take on 75 vets, and someone's got to, like, that's how I'll get to the numbers that I want. Okay, this is somewhat just giving you a sense of how these deals are done and how we are structuring ourselves and positioning ourselves to make this pipeline work. And it's, this example just illustrates the understanding about the partner, right? I understand this employer and what their drivers are, what their priorities are. I know that this is so critical to them in terms of winning deal that I can propose KP as a partner in terms of how we add value to something that is important to you. How can I help you? How does KP help CACI? This is the most important thing. They can go a lot of places and people can talk to them about this stuff, but they can't all do this and this. Right? And then we have the relationship. I didn't go through, I called my buddy up and say, hey, Jack, look, this is what I'm thinking about. What do you think? Let's spend some time on the phone. And he said, yeah, you know, we do something like this. And yeah, I think, you know, you should talk to this person in HR. And then we got a small business, minority business liaison. You guys got to talk to them. And yeah, we do this. We like this model. Right? So this is big time fishing, right? You go in and you reel in CACI. This is where I spend a good portion of my time on these kind of deals, right? Larger deals, national deals. Okay, does that help clarify some of that stuff in terms of how we engage, why the employer is important, and kind of how some of this stuff works? All right, perfect. Okay, well, our discussion has, I mean, we're already, time is flying. Time flies when you're having fun. I know it's late, so I really appreciate you guys. But I do enjoy talking to you guys about this and teaching you. What I was supposed to be talking about tonight, most of the evening, I was supposed to be talking about the technology, right? So you guys, I spent these last couple of days talking about how like the concept works, to give you guys just a little bit more clarity about, like, from a consulting perspective, how we're solving the problems, you know, what does that really mean? So hopefully you guys have a better sense of that. The technology is the key that enables everything. All right. So when I thought of my idea, I didn't think about all the programs, all the services. I just thought about the technology and how the technology could guide people. So I want to spend a couple of minutes today just talking about that. And then because we're already late, I'll just pick up exactly where we left off here. And then I'll put more of the questions for you guys to answer as the assignment. So I won't take up as much time chatting, but I do like hearing from you guys. So I'm torn. But anyway, let me get to this. And I think I should already have it up. Okay, here it is. So if you had a chance to see the lecture I gave when I was at Wharton, you kind of probably maybe seen some of this stuff. I should go up here. Okay, so this is our KP Life system. Okay, this is how it started in terms of how I began to think about what we needed to do, and these slides are meant to kind of showcase how the technology works. So and this is from the perspective of the person you're trying to help primarily, okay, and to showcase the system. So Reggie Foster is our little foster care kid, and so to show kind of just in terms of the impact, but basically it's an intake process. I used to, okay, guys, when I first started this, you know, I was 2007, 8, 2006, 14 years ago, 15 years ago. You know, I was a younger guy then, and I used to explain this to people like this. If we have like Pandora that matches your listening to your style, your preferences, and brings you to things that it thinks you should like, or we've got Match.com that takes people and gets information about them and then matches them to other people. Well, why couldn't we build a system that uses that same technology to match people with resources? And to have those resources then be in, like, you do this first when you're 10, you do this next when you're 12, and that the system could just do that, right? Those are all, I could see how all the tech, from a technical perspective, how we can get the system to do that. And so the question was, how do you build that? Okay, so does that make sense first in terms of the matching of resources to people? Because that really is the essence of what I think it comes down to in terms of how we help people. So is that clear though, in terms of why that's so significant? Or Tanya, tell me why that's important. Why is it important to match the people with the resources? Why is that our big aha?
It's important to match the people to the resources because one, they might not be aware of the resources that is available, and two, having everything in one component is helpful to be accessible more than having to go one place for one resource, go to another place for another one.
Yeah, like we're like continuity of care, right? We're like coordination of resources. And it's true, like you guys said, one, lots of time people don't know about it. A lot of you guys may not even know about WIOA before you met us, right? You didn't know about it until we introduced you to it. And so there is this lack of knowledge. So this asymmetric information, some people know, some people don't, right? And I talked about how what made me think about that is how scholarships go unutilized. Well, you should be able to just match people and make that work a lot better, right? But also it's about the integration. Remember, I said that these resources don't work together. So it's not natural for the resource or the service provider to tell you about the next resource. So we can help the integration by knowing about the different partner and just moving you from one resource to the next. We, even without building the relationship with them, as long as I know what the criteria is, what the application process is, what the timeline is, then I can do the integration by just knowing what to do. Right? And that's kind of the key thing, knowing what to do because of the way that we approach the integration. And it starts by basically doing an intake process, right, about the people and learning about them, you know, where they're at with their communication skills, or giving job readiness assessments, or giving academic assessments. So we baseline and collect this data, which is the point of it. And then we track them. You know, we have a dashboard, and you know, we have this point system. We have this point system where people are actually earning points. So all of you, has anyone noticed anything called the pay rate in their KP life? Did anyone see something like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that.
What y'all, I mean, what did y'all think that was? Did that, or were you curious, or what did that mean to you guys? Nothing?
That was a scoring, some type of rating system.
Yeah. What we do with that is that we recognize that one of the problems is that even though we think that these are great ideas conceptually, the question is, how do you encourage the kids, particularly people, of course, I think Camille brought this up. How do you get people to finish and complete and do what you're asking them to do? And so there has to be this incentive. And so we want to manage our like after school programs and programming like a simulated work environment. So we don't want kids to think about like after school is just like school. We want them to think it's more like work. So we do give a pay rate, and the pay rate is for anything that you're doing with KP. So if you're taking training, like we're tracking all your time, because this is how we track your time and what you're doing. We're tracking your time. We know like what day you're supposed to be someplace because you got a calendar, and we're tracking all that. We can leave you messages, give you notices, all of that stuff. We can even tell you about community service projects that are coming up. All right. But when we're telling you something, we're telling you something that's really going to help you with a particular skill. Right? We're always designed about the things that we're trying to get you to do has to do with your development. Right? And we are tracking all of the resources to tell you more about it. And then we give you mentors. We don't use the word mentors anymore. We use advisors. When I use the word mentor, everybody thinks it should be free. When I use the word advisor, they think it's very expensive. So I choose this. But it's the same thing. All right. And then it's also got the social aspect to it. Okay. So the technology is saying like, okay, well, if I can get you these resources and then I can track you, I can build a career path and know what you should be doing at each step. And this will show it a little bit in a second. And from the mentor, the advisor's perspective, this is what's critical. That when I see the students or people who I'm working with, I'm using this risk classification level to tell me, are things going okay? Or, right? Like this one, the green, things are going well, and the risk level is going down. Okay, this kid is good. Green and it's neutral, this kid is good. But red and the risk is increasing, we need to place more attention here. Yellow and increasing, we need to pay more attention here. And also to give the advisor flags of what the problem is. And so your talent advisor, right, Rudy's got this information about you guys, right? If we feel that something's not going, if you're not here, and when I take attendance, you will see on our system, while you may not get the notification, it's going to tell someone on our team that something is not going the way it's supposed to. So that we get an early indicator immediately. What's going on? Right? Because when we're tracking you, we're developing you, particularly for our younger folks in K through 12, this is how we gauge, is the system working for them? And begin to stratify our high risk kids from our lower risk kids. Low risk, they could just follow the system, it's working for them. High risk, higher intervention. Higher intervention. Okay. And in the system, we're also doing the assessments and matching people with their careers, right? And our partners, we really want the employers to be telling us about the jobs that are available. We're looking at this people, the participants, hey, what are you guys interested in? And this is how we use to create then the career path. What should you be doing in phase 1, phase 2, in high school, and so forth? And now this is how we have better guidance targeted to the career of the employer. Because we are looking at what the employer told us was the skills, and then we are deciding what someone should do academically, socially, and also professionally. And a lot of this is automated. So let me just take a second. What do you guys think about that? Give me some feedback in terms of that as I know I'm going a little quick because what do you guys think about the technology?
I love it. I think you guys did I think you did a great job developing it. I mean, this tracking system is incredible. I think that the way you have this plan, he's talked about this career path and this plan, but this slide right here shows everything. It shows, hey, you want to be a construction engineer, it shows everything from phase 1 all the way up. I think that this could be applied in so many different routes. I mean, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, because we're agnostic on what you want to be, right? We could reverse engineer any career. We could figure out any skill set, but we choose the ones that we have chosen because we want to train and hire our own people. But if someone else said, hey, I need a construction engineer, I'm sure we could easily figure out how to put kids on that path for another employer, someone who would be a partner of ours. Anyone else have any feedback?
I think
Yeah,
I
it's a
think
great.
this is great, especially now, even though we hope that COVID won't be here forever. I think it's great now too, because kids are doing, a lot of people are doing homeschooling. And it would help even the schools to keep a better track of what is not just all about their book work or what they're handing in during the day. It's also what else is going on, and you're not able to see them, to have that physical relationship with them. So this is another way to get them to be more interactive and be more contributing to their destiny, like really get into their head about what they would like to do. I'm also thinking about who's, the people who are actually behind the scenes monitoring this, like, what kind of staff you have doing this.
Yeah, well, I mean, whoever runs the project uses these same resources, right? So, you guys would be using these resources, and you're using it now because this is our KP Life system, right? These are the mock-ups in terms of like when I first thought of it, but what you're using now in terms of how you're taking the training, that is the system that we've designed, right? KP Life is designed to manage your life, not just your academics, but your social, your professional, where we can help advise you things you don't know about, resources, when you should be taking something, right? If I want you to take calculus, I know you got to be taking algebra or math at a certain time, right? So this is kind of the philosophy behind that. So let me just I want to just quickly show you the last couple of slides. Yeah, anyone else want to comment?
Yeah, John, I just got a quick question.
Yeah.
So with the, this is all algorithms. How do you implement this with an actual school? Like, how do they take this and combine it with their curriculum? So is this based on recommendations after school, or how does that apply during a school session?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So first, it depends on the relationship. So this is our ATMs. This is KP Life is our system that's based on this technology that we call ATMs, Ascend Talent Management System. And so there's lots of ways to use the technology, right? One, what I call managed services, when we are managing the process. So think of us managing an after-school program for a high school. Then this is the tool that we are using to govern ourselves, to manage the kids, to take attendance, to identify resources, to provide them with information, to identify risk for all our reporting. We're using it for all of those things. And it depends on what structure, right? This is technology. So the path that we put in the system depend on what the job occupation. So when I think about how to develop like someone in cyber, I have a defined path of what should happen in each of these phases, right? I already know what classes I'm going to teach you. We already have our curriculum all set up. Now, what other thing the school has available, or your community has available, then this is where we have to know about the resources and begin making those. Because remember, I said in a fragmented market, the resources are underutilized, right? Because there's so many, they're just duplicative. Well, we want to begin choosing partners that we can work with and then having our kids go there. So like my path I talked about was, I was in this busing program, and then I went to En-ROADS. Oh, I think I had Ando, MS squared, and then I did CGI, right? And then I went to Wharton. This path, I could put someone else in the busing program and put them in En-ROADS and sending them MS squared, and they should have very similar skills that I have and similar experience. I could just replicate that, and I could put that in someone's path, and they don't know about any of these things until I tell them about it. But I know from my experience that if you go through those programs, these are really good partners, and they're going to help build your skills for the workforce. So that's one way this can be utilized in terms of us managing this. Think about us running just a big mentoring program or running the whole full after school program with the focus on getting everyone jobs. One of the issues that happens, like SYEP, Summer Youth Employment Program, right? All my kids, as soon as you get age old enough, which is generally right here when you become 14, 8th grade and 9th grade, you should be in Summer Youth Employment Program. But a lot of kids miss the application deadline. And the schools don't help them sign up. Well, that's, I mean, we could solve that. All our kids got to be signed up for Summer Youth Employment Program. We got to build it into our programming. Today and after school, everybody getting signed up so you have a job this summer. It's important. We don't let that fall through the cracks, right? Because we know that this is a program we want all of our kids in. And then we got to work to get them all in there, right? And I think David is a good example. David, this is a great program. We owe it. We need you to get your paperwork in. I got to work with you. Get it in, get it in, get it in. That is fairly common because people may not be as familiar with these processes and procedures. And sometimes they need someone to be the authority figure. Like, this is how you handle your business. Like, get it in now, be early, be on time, write it like this, do it like that. This is what it means to train somebody. Okay, let me just these slides are a little bit involved, so I just want to quickly try to go through them, and I will review them again when we start off next time. Okay, so the important thing about the points, one of the things is this is showing that the system provides these notifications so that you guys have lots of people who are connected to you. You have your talent advisor. You guys are all connected to me for this cohort. You guys will have star navigators, and we will get information. Like, if if I mark someone absent, that's going to trigger like some notifications so other people know, like, whoever's responsible for you know that something didn't happen you were supposed to do. And then we have a strategy for how we try to manage that risk. And a lot of it has to do with like this point system and what you can get. Now, this is old because we was talking about an iPod. So that this is an old presentation at the time, okay? But we also give the advisors strategies for talking about it, chat or articles. How do we manage the risk? So again, a lot of this is just these kind of human factors that sometimes people don't get. This is a very busy slide, so I will save this one. I will not put you hired people through having to worry about this one tonight. But I'll start with that one and go into it. But the point is that what can you do with the points? Because for the people participating, particularly for the youth, they're not doing it because Jim said you're going to get a good job in 10 years, right? That's too far, right? Kids don't think like that. But you could get a t-shirt next week that says KP and we got some dope stuff. You could get these movie tickets, right? And oh my God, what if we pay for that cell phone bill? You think you coming every day to my program then? Right? What if we pay for your mom's utility bill because you was coming here? Right? You low income, you have a struggle. We want KP people the virtual economy also inserts us in as an authority figure for young people. Like, oh, I'm paying you to go to school and my virtual point, so you better do it the way I'm telling you to do it. You should be getting an A because that's my standard. And if not, you should be coming to the program so we can help you with that. But standard of excellence is not something that everyone who is in these kind of marginalized situations has been forced to achieve. So here at KP, we're all about excellence, right? From the top to the bottom. I got to be excellent. I got to be on top of my job. The people on the team, you guys got to be excellent, right? That's the only way that we make a difference. It's the excellence that we bring with our work. We're not just here to feel sorry for people. Like, this is our job. This is our profession. This is our craft. Like, I want to be the best at it, right? I need the team to be the best. And again, you will hear me say this constantly. I am not about being a part of a losing team. Like, I just don't do that, right? So we got to play to win. And we got to understand what the business goals are, what the objectives are. And at the end of the day, knowing that the work we do can have a tremendous, tremendous impact on the lives of others. That's all I got for y'all today. So I really appreciate everyone. I know it's a long day. Thank you guys so much for your participation. Look for the assignment. It won't be due until next week on Monday. Okay, so you'll have basically the weekend. We will be putting some more material, asking you guys to review. I think there's going to be an article we ask you to read and comment on one of the blogs, things like that, that just get you guys again further acclimated with what we're doing. I would appreciate, I won't do it now, but if you guys can all, there are surveys, but I know you guys haven't all gotten into the technology for each lesson. But if you guys would just send me, this is really the end of the first week. If you guys can just send me a brief note to let me know how your first week went, things that you learned that you didn't know, any concerns you have. I'd love to just get that from everybody. If you wouldn't mind just taking 5 minutes after the class today to send me that email, I'd appreciate that. And then before I close, any questions from me before we shut it down today? Awesome. You guys are great. I appreciate y'all. All right, everyone have a good night. Look for the assignments and the technology. You'll get a reminder. It'll give you a notification. And remember to send me just a brief note, you know, a couple of sentences, paragraph. If you feeling real righty, feel free to go ahead and go all out, but just a couple of sentences is all, it's all that's required. All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.